Okay, this is going to be a quick video on getting your files ready to go into EZcad. I've already worked up my art on how I want it, but there's a few things you want to take into consideration when getting these ready to actually pull into EZcad. The first thing is making sure that there's no hidden lines or overlaps that are unaccounted for. So to get rid of this, my general process is to make each layer that you're doing a different color. So I'm going to use this as my background layer. I'm going to actually go ahead and remove this from the layering. I do this for alignment mostly. You would cut it through with the design if you were going to shine up the layer or do a different color on that, then keep it in with a layer. But since I'm not doing that, it's just for alignment to show where I'm going to be lasering. I will be pulling that one out. You want to make sure that each of your layers is a different color. That way, whenever you do the trim, there's not going to be an issue of the colors that are the same color merging together. So, my background color, I'm going to change to red. And then my design fill color, I'm going to change to this light blue. Alright, so I have a black, a white, a red, and a blue. Those colors shouldn't morph together, and it would be good to go ahead, highlight the whole thing. Under Pathfinder, if it's not available, go to Window, you can activate it there. I recommend keeping it on hand. You want to merge your colors. That way, all the black intersecting lines become one continuous line with no gaps or hidden lines that may be picked up by the laser. When you do that, go ahead and do a trim, and then that cuts all the layers through. It is all together now, so you will have to ungroup it, which is Control-Shift-G, or you can go up here, ungroup. Now, each section can be selected. So you want to press Y, which is your magic brush, and you want to click each color. You can start with the infill, which is the white. And if you hold Shift, it makes it move straight, which I do recommend. Give yourself enough space to move it and be able to select it to group it later. The next layer I'm going to get is going to be whichever layer this is. And that is the red. So this blue is the background. I'm actually going to select both of these by holding Shift. I have the red and the blue. If I pull these over to the side, I can make them one color, yellow, and then I can merge those two together with Pathfinder. This is my layer that I'm going to be doing my initial backfill or deep engraving to. I'm going to copy that, paste it, make sure it works, Control Z to undo it. I'm going to do Control Z again, until my colors are together. Then I will paste that yellow back in, and then go on to this fill, which is the red. Move that over to the side. And then this blue I don't need because I have the full solid to show whenever I put these over the other to the front. I get that desired striping effect, which the yellow is going to be annealed black, and then the red is going to be a silver coat back over it to bring that shine and give that original layer. So now that I have all my layers, what I'm going to do is make the box that is, again, none of the same colors. Okay, this blue. V to select it, Control C, Control V, copy it. I'm going to make this one black. I want to select all of these. So you can see there are hidden lines in here that the laser would pick up. If I hit R1 or the right trigger, I can hit arrange, bring it to the front. Hold that on here, and this process does get rid of all of those hidden lines. So I definitely recommend, if this is the one thing you get from this video as a takeaway, it's doing this clone method. Go back to your Pathfinder, hit trim, press Y to select the blue. I would call this my cookie cutter. Didn't take. You'll see lines in it. If you do, select all again, trim, press Y, select the color. You see this time took it. This is my cookie cutter sheet. Move it on here, copy it all again, trim again. See this line disappear. I will press Y to select the blue again. I will delete it. You select and hold Shift. Sorry, hold this and hold Control. It'll select just that. Delete. And then you have your shapes. They are merged together. Hold Control and highlight all of these. Delete those. And these are still all grouped together, so you will need to ungroup these. Now each individual section is its own group. When I go back through, highlight each of these individually, hit group, Control G, and like just that, Control G, and like just that, Control G, just that, Control G, Control G. Alright, I do like to go back and make these the right color now that they're selected. Put that on white. I'll make this one usually red, and then this one will be black as well. So just to show these again, basic on what it's going to look like. Zoom in and align them pretty good. Doesn't have to be absolutely perfect for this part. Always good to find a point in which it does intersect. Silver. So this is essentially what my knife will look like. I'm going to separate those back again using undo. Too far. Put my colors back. And this would be ready to go into the laser. I will save this as my stainless steel folding knife scroll pattern easy ready. I usually just put easy at the end for whenever it's ready to be put into EZcad. Save that. Make sure you save it as Illustrator 8. For some reason, any of the other ones above that will leave additional lines in it. So once that's ready, double check it's in there. I set this into a flash drive that I can then unplug, plug into my laser, And then we can load it into the laser. I will walk over to the laser. You can see my drive popped up. Hit that, it's in there. I don't want that. I want to open a new EZcad file, nothing in it. I will go to File, Import Vector File. I'll click that AI that I just created. And then if I hit this, if you don't see it, don't worry. If you hit this, it's usually not centered. So this is my working area on my laser. This is a 110 lens that I have in here. And I know my shape is going to be much smaller than this. Whenever you zoom in or shrink your art, if you hold shift, it'll do it from the center. So you can see this is from the center. If I release shift, it goes from the corner. I know my knife is approximately that big, but I'm going to go under just a little bit so I can show you how I size it and align it. So using your templates and sizing and align is very important. As you can see, all of these are together. You want to ungroup them. And we'll make each one of these into groups, but I recommend grouping again to make it into individual curves. This may take a while. Highlight if you're using, group it. Highlight each section, part, group it, group, group, and group. Now I have this many groups. If you see extra curves in here, you didn't get everything. Or you might have something hidden off in the background. Alright, if I click these, I can name them by double clicking this area. Outline. This is my detail. This is my shine fill. The part that I would take deep if I decided to. I usually name it deep. And this is my background fill. That helps you just not worry about getting them all mixed up. So now that each of these are their own groups, they are all the same size that you originally uploaded them in there. So whenever you do resize, make sure you select everything, otherwise it'll throw out of whack. Hit center, and then I can hit F1 to trace and see that that is much smaller than my design. So I will select everything. I will hold shift, and that'll make it roughly as big as I think I need to. I do recommend always centering whatever you're working on. Sometimes it's not an option, but if you center it, once you save your art, if something happens and it crashes, you can always load back whatever you're working on and it'll already be centered. If for some reason something's off, you can hit center and your work piece will be ready to go. So I will select this, make sure it's centered. Outline that again. As you can see, it's still too small. And if I copy this section, I can Control C, Control V. I can ungroup that, and I can delete all these. I'm holding Control and Shift to multi-select. Delete them. Now I have just the outline if I need. I will use this and show you the difference. It doesn't show all these circles, which will ultimately make it faster for tracing the outlined area. And I can get a better gauge on how much I need to adjust it. So again, select them all. think right around here is where I need. Might be a little big. F1 or mark 1 again. It looks like it's still a little small. So I will select these ones, move them out of the way a little bit as this gets bigger. Select everything. Again, hold shift, go from the center. Believe that is about it. You could technically measure and get it, but I do find it can be fairly simple to just do it like this. Make sure my piece is aligned. Make sure it's in focus. It's not. Turn my galvo dots on. Bring it up in focus. Center it. So almost there. Tiny bit bigger. Always make sure you're within your bounds of the square, your working area. If it is too big, you can actually refract into the lens and can either heat it up or mark on your lens, which will ultimately damage it. So that looks good. So that's where I want it. And I'm going to rebuild my design back in here. I will start with this detail. I'll center it. Next, I would recommend bringing this in separate. I put it slightly off skew to the right. And whenever I zoom in, I'm going to zoom in on a particular spot. Click my shape, move it in, skew it off a little bit more still. And just keep zooming in until you get your shape really close to that line. I'm going to use this one here. This is as far as EZcad will zoom in. Whenever I grab the shape, put it in there, relapse. It's a little bit off. It's not the end of the world. You want to get it as close as you possibly can. When you zoom out, the difference is going to be very negligible. There are a few little scraps in my design. It looks like they're small enough that they aren't going to be an issue in the grand scheme of the knife, which is about this size. So again, move this in, find a spot where it's going to seat around here. I'm going to zoom in on a spot that I can put this in. So you could center the art, but I find that this is the best way to get your layering as close as possible, because whenever your art is thinned or offset from each other, they don't always contain the same size. And they won't always line up just by hitting center. Alright, I'll zoom out again, grab the last piece. Zoom in here. Set a point is oftentimes the best spot. Zoom in. Just keep track on which point is which point. Off, that in, this one, in. And when that's zoomed in, that's 0.05 difference in millimeters. So that is minuscule and unnoticeable by the eye. And then I have this. I'm going to save. See that it's saved up here. Now I'm going to hatch. I'm going to start with the deep. Hatch that. And this deep background, I'm going to actually take it in a little bit. At 0.00. And I'll do this separately. Make sure there's none of these other hatch enabled. Okay. That's my deep. It does get rid of your name, so make sure you rename. The detail. Hatch that. I just want this one to add a little bit of a mark. Blue is going to be my deep engrave, and I'll go over that in a second. Next, I'm going to do a shine pass. I usually do yellow for my shine pass. And then I'll do an anneal, which is going to add that black, a smooth finish that's less likely to rust because it's been semi-heat treated. I put that at an 004 for my anneal pass. And all these will be different from yours. This is just a reference, good starting point if you want your knife to turn out similar to this one. All right. You can see it's loading. Now with these tight passes and multiple hatches, it may take a little bit longer. And at any point, if your system is going to crash, it's going to be during this portion of it. So make sure you save between each of these hatchings just to make sure that you don't lose your progress. I do recommend saving often just to make sure that you're not losing all your progress. Good indication I use is, as you can see here at the ruler, the mouse is followed by the ruler, and when that is moving, it is responding. And if it's not responding and you click, oftentimes it can lag it up even more, so make sure not to overload it more by clicking around, but just give it time. If it does crash, just load in from your last save. All right. Next will be shine. So you can see some spawning, edge, single pass. Sure the others are not enabled. Doing that.
It's a taste of fall, a day not to miss.
See, it's thinking, it's not following my marker.
Werther's original soft, chewy, and classic caramels
Shine.
with real butter and fresh cream. Discover the original fall flavor.
Make my detail to be above my shine just because it looks nicer. The next will be background. And if you need, if your computer runs a little slow, you can turn these hatches off until you're working on the particular hatch. Put Mark Contour on, it'll still show it. I'm going to leave the detail because it's 3 different hatches and I don't want to click through each one. But here's the background. Last one. Give that a hatch. I'm going to make that shine opposed to that annealed background. It's going to be the same as the shine path. Alright. Rename this again. And I can mark Contour until I'm ready. Right, so the first one that I always do when engraving is my deep background paths. But if you're cutting something all the way through in a design, you definitely want to do this. It's going to be the most debris-riddled, dusty, removed part, and the other parts will go over and kind of clean up anything after this. But if you do the shining first, and then you do this, oftentimes you'll get a residue and have to go back and either clean it physically or run another pass on it. Always do the lowest layer first. So this deep, I have enabled, turn off Mark Contour. Hit this, it'll zoom in on my work area, showing the whole thing. So I want to look at the hatch. I want it enabled. I'll probably do about 5 passes on this. I do want auto rotate. Start at 0. I do want this hatch at 0.007. And I'm using the blue pen. I'm going to go over here to this blue pen. Turn off the default. And for this deep pass, I'm going to do 1000 speed. I'm going to do 80 power and 30 frequency. So this is my generic deep engraving. I don't usually go above 80 to conserve it from being affected by heat. But by the time it engraves this part, it gets to this part to hit this part again on the next pass, it's cooled down enough and it doesn't affect any of the blade temperings or anything like that. I think I've measured it and it doesn't really get any hotter than about 120 degrees. So that pen is good. Move on to the next one, which was my black, which is a spec detail, and that is my annealing. But whatever you click over here on these doesn't make a difference. It always goes off of the pen that you have set on the actual item. But for this black, my anneal settings was a 0.004 on the black. Line spacing, I do 400 speed. I only do 20 power. And I have a JPT, so my frequency can go, I believe, up to 200. But I found 135 is a good spot for a black anneal. Any more power, you'll start to ablate and remove material and it'll get rusted. But this seems to be a good heat setting. Alright, the next one is a shine at a 0.01 line spacing. This I find gets me a nice white at 1000, 10 power, and 30 frequency. Right, and just for aesthetic reasons, turn back on blue. That's what this passes on. And I'll go ahead and start running this laser. What I'll do is I'll do a close-up view so you can see the laser actually running and get a feel. And I'll start with showing you the outlined area again before I do each laser path. So here's my outline, and I will switch to the close-up. Alright, as I saw that aligned really good, avoided all my circle portions that I specifically designed around, I will put it on continuous. I will reset it so I know how many times it goes. And as you can see, the auto rotation has rotated it 27 degrees. And I will let this run for each pass was less than 1 minute. I'd say about 5 to 10 passes should give a nice deep layering to it to make that scrolling kind of stand off a little bit. So we'll get that going, and I will check back with you when that's done.
Mexico. Mexico with a family that loves street food and history and luchadors and horse.
Alright, as I see that approaching its final pass, I will stop it. Alright, so next I'm going to do just a quick cleanup pass on it. I'll use different patch for this just so I keep my settings. Enable this, and I'll use that whiting portion. 0.01 with just 1030. I'll turn it off continuousness and then give it a go. Next, I will go ahead and do the background detail. I prefer to do the detail before the shine, as the white from the shine goes over pretty well and cleans up any debris that has gotten on the area.
Let me show you how
So we'll go ahead and do this detail.
for the fall season with linked assets in Adobe Express. So I made
This is a 3-patch run where it does a deep engrave, then it cleans it up, then it anneals. The anneal process is a little slow, so just bear with me. We'll get to watch it go though.
So I'm just going to edit, update, and swap things in this design. Because this main asset is linked, I edited it with warmer tones and effects right in Photoshop, and as soon as I saved that file, I hit update in Adobe Express, and boom, it was synced in seconds. Look at how beautiful it turned out.
What's up, race fans? Have you ever imagined a machine so powerful it can change your destiny in a split second? This is where technology and innovation bring the impossible to life. But that only makes the stakes higher. So if
Alright, now that that layer is done, we'll go ahead and wait for this to load. You can see it's starting to take shape onto what we really want. I will go ahead and do the shine layer. And since the detail's done, I'll go ahead and turn off those layers. And it'll make it run a little bit faster for me in between each one. You do have to apply each layer. If you just click to the next one, it will not save the settings you had from the prior. So keep that in mind. Wait for this to follow my mouse. Table. You can see, turns on. Runs a lot faster without that anneal. The more, the lower number you have here in the line spacing, the more lines in any given area, and the more it has to think. So definitely keep that in mind when doing very extensive designs. We'll go ahead and get on to this next shine layer. Mark the Toro. And again, this is 0.01 at 101030. Alright, so let's walk over and we'll get to watch. So you can see I did run it a second time on that pass just to make it pop a little bit more. Now that's done. We'll mark it on the contour. We'll go back to the feet. We'll do the annealing on that. I have this at a 0.004 on my black setting, which again was a 420/135. I will apply that. And this one will probably take a little bit longer to run. Bear with it. But this is where you'll start to really see the difference in the design pop out. Alright, it's really looking nice now. The last step is to add this background in. Take that 0.001, 0.01, at again 1010/30. Go ahead and give that a shot. See how this pops out in the end. Alright, well this has been ArcLight Laser Labs, and that's been a step-by-step tutorial from art setup to actual finished product. Really like the way it turned out. These are cheap knives, but I can always put my touch on them. Next step, I'm going to put some oil on them just to keep them from rusting. They look this good forever. Thanks as always for checking us out. I hope it was very insightful. And until next time, have a wonderful night.